Namaste, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan and we are coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime studio presented by Green Lamb Laminates. First up, sensational details have been outed and revealed in the latest Oxfam report titled Takers, Not Makers. And this was released on Monday, hours ahead of the start of the annual Davos meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos. The report cited the UK extracted 64.82 trillion US dollars from over a century of colonialism between 1765 and the year 1900. And 33.8 trillion US dollars worth of this entire plunder and loot went to the richest 10%. Enough money to carpet London in notes of 50 British pounds, almost 4 times over. The report emphasizes the enduring impact of colonialism on contemporary society and economics, illustrating how historical injustices continue to shape modern labor markets and socio-economic structures. The Oxfam report also has highlighted legacies of inequality and pathologies of plunder, pioneered during the time of historical colonialism, that continue to shape modern lives. The report also cited creation of a deeply unequal world, a world torn apart by division based on caste, religion and gender divisions, and a world that continues to systematically extract wealth from the global south to primarily benefit the richest people in the global north. It also went on to say that for the same skills, there is almost an 80% plus difference in the wages paid in the global south compared to the global north. Joining us now, Dr. Anand Ranganathan. We should hopefully have author Amish Tripathi also joining us in a bit. But Dr. Ranganathan, I just quickly wanted to ask you, have you perused this report? Because this report also touches upon how organizations, global organizations, groupings like the WTO, WHO, also have become hegemonistic entities where even during the COVID time, when nations like South Africa and Bharat wanted this entire intellectual property waiver, this was blocked by rich nations. More than 100 nations were signatory, and the Oxfam report talks about it. And this entire spread of inequality is based on the loot and plunder of the global south, largely Bharat and some other nations. And this continues to fuel some of the richest conglomerates, businesses, families in the UK and the West.
Good evening, Anand. Thank you very much for having me. You're right. But let me explain this tragedy, and I have gone through the report perfunctorily right now. The tragedy is that I don't think humankind has developed a system by which such things will never be repeated. They are being repeated in one way or the other, in one form or the other, even as we speak. And the primary reason for that is what I will explain at the fag end of what I need to say, is because our misreading of Darwinian's theory of evolution, that in one way or the other, we tend to believe as a community, as a population, in what is called social Darwinism, but that comes later. What I would want to base my thesis on is something that this report talks about. And it is a fact that the British Empire destroyed us from the outside and from the inside, Anand. And it has taken us almost a century or 3/4 to recover, and we still haven't recovered fully. And let me say this bluntly. Anyone, and there are many, anyone who thinks that the British Empire did us good or was virtuous is an ignorant, racist psychopath. There is no other way of describing that person. And there are many, as I said, many. A few minutes is not enough to narrate the cruelty and evil nature of the British Empire. And one could put a monetary estimate as to the loss to India on account of the British colonial rule, and that amount can vary, as you know, from $30 trillion as a report came 3-4 years ago to $60 trillion now. And the fact of the matter is, how can you possibly estimate 2 centuries of mental slavery, of reducing a thriving, prospering civilization to penury, of devastating our wealth, our health, and our wisdom, of reducing our economy to an opium economy, of reducing our share in the world economy by an order of magnitude, of making India a wholly captive market, of forcing us to make what they wanted us to make, of forcing us to buy what they wanted us to buy. How can one possibly put a figure to this, Anand? The only thing worse than death is damage that cannot be calculated, and they caused us incalculable damage. Let me give you 4 parameters to be very clear. When we gained independence, our life expectancy was 32 years in 1947. 32 years. Today it is 76 years. Our literacy rate was 12%. Today it is upwards of 86%. Our poverty rate was 71%. Today it is 4.5%. And our infant mortality rate in 1947, when we gained independence from the British, was 160. Today it is 24. 75 years ago, 160 babies who were born did not live out of 1,000, did not live to see 1 year. That is the damage that they caused. And it's not something to debate whether man's barbarism and cruelty exactly, 3 or 4 centuries after the legendary Bartolome de la Casa's A Short Account of the Destruction of the Indies came. Because that was what the Spaniards did to the Latin Americans, what the Brits did to almost 3/4 of the world. Death, destruction, annihilation, slavery, subjugation, racism. These are, Anand, the ghostly shadows that forever accompany man, their master, they are his. And to stop their sweep is to stop the march of mankind itself. But the fact of the matter is, unless we realize that this has to be stopped, but how do we stop it? Inequality is a fact of life, but the desire to be rich, impossibly rich, to lead a life of immense comfort that would allow a culture, a kind of culture to prosper, books to be written, music to be composed, science to be conducted, is not promoting inequality. It is building an empire. Perversely, Anand, it was an incorrect, as I said, and convenient interpretation of one of science's unshakable axioms that allowed empires to be built, Darwinism. That if one has the means to kill or conquer, one should go right ahead. That man sits at the top of the pyramid of life, and not just man, but a particular mutant of man, a white man, a Britisher. Empires necessitated a slow percolation of racism to the subconscious, so that even the congenial and the sympathetic were programmed not to disrupt the status quo that was ultimately rewarding to them and their race. Finally, let me put this again bluntly. Newton, Dirac, Curie, Foucault stood not on the shoulders of giants in order to see further. They stood on the dead bodies of millions of colored men and women. They prospered because their nations allowed them quietly to prosper at the expense of a mind-crushing vacuum that was forced upon all subjugated lands. They helped peddle this vicious cycle, Anand. Every invention, every new thought, new idea was touted as a natural result of an advanced mind, an advanced civilization at work, spurring the notion of superiority that ultimately rusted their spring. But the fact of the matter is, every new idea was borrowed, and it came and it rose from the ashes that we as a continent were burnt by the British. That's the fact.
Well, I'm just reading some portions of the report, and it's very, very uncharitable to the colonial rule, Dr. Ranganathan. In fact, what they have said is multiple other divisions were expanded, exploited, concretized and compounded during the historical colonial period, including caste, religion, gender, sexuality, language and geography. In India, during the British colonial period, the caste system was formalized through legal and administrative measures which reinforced its rigid boundaries. And we continue to bear the cost and the weight of this entire caste-based division in our society. It also talks about the British as colonial drug pushers, saying that as the world deals with the legacy of corporate greed that contributed to the opioid crisis, it is critical to remember that both the Dutch and the British East India companies used opium trade to consolidate their colonial rule. I am quoting Oxfam. They say opium production on an industrial scale was promoted in eastern India, where the British East India Company held a monopoly from 1757 and transferred it to the Crown in 1873, and the produce was exported to China, eventually triggering the Opium War and China's so-called century of humiliation. So you've not only corrupted and destroyed the fertile agricultural lands of one country, but you have also used that to export it to a neighboring nation and destroyed the people there. That is what it says. And then the report has also further said, very, very strong, saying that the company claimed that patent was a product of unique invention. Neem extracts be used by rural farmers in India for more than 2000 years in insect repellents, soap and contraceptives were actually then patented by W.R. Grace in 1994, patent for a neem tree seed extract used as its antifungal spray Neemex. So our own traditional things were taken away by the global north, these conglomerates, and patented abroad. This is how they have looted us. And look at this, grain import restrictions during World War II underpinned by racist thinking appear to have significantly contributed to or caused the Bengal famine of 1943. They are saying 53 million deaths in excess because of their excesses. 53 million deaths. Now, can we just look at it, read it, look at those numbers and say, "Arey, inhone ye sab kiya," and then say, "Thank you very much, let's move on."
Not only that, despite all this, it was Mahatma Gandhi who said we wouldn't mind if independent India's flag had Union Jack on the top left. But the fact of the matter is, as I say, nations weaken not because of their past, but rather by how they are taught it, Anand. None of this was taught to us. And it is a tragedy that it takes an Oxfam to bring out this data, because now authoritatively at least people will at least read books. For example, people have attributed modernization of India, the modernization of education in India, to the British. Nothing could be further from the truth. I quote from this amazing book called The Beautiful Tree by historian Dharampal. Did you know, for example, in 1801, 110,000 indigenous schools called Pathshalas abounded in Bihar and Bengal alone in 1830, 14,000 in Madras. Every village had a school. This was from Munro, quoted by a Britisher. On the other hand, in 1801, Britain had only 3,363 schools. But now you look, couple of centuries of absolute subjugation, and they reduced us to beggars. But that is the cost of human history, Anand. The question is, yes, it was devastating for us as a civilization, as a nation. But have we learnt our lessons? I don't think we have, because a vast chunk of the planet still believes in social Darwinism. It still believes in the falsification of Darwin's theory that survival of the fittest is the only juice to be extracted from it. Whereas that is only half of what the theory says. The other half is conveniently ignored, which talks about empathy, of cognitive ability of humans, of how cooperativity allows human civilization to progress.
No, you made very strong points. They've also talked about the loot and plunder of the non-renewables and how that's caused this entire climate breakdown, which developed nations who have been plundered in the past over the last 300-400 years have to now bear the brunt of that, and this entire exploitation by this global north. Amish Tripathi ji had joined us and he had dropped off. He's back with us. Amish ji, namaste. We've got a lot of conversations to do today, and so I'm going to segue after a quick question on the Oxfam report on other matters, because today is the 22nd of January to our viewers. And Dr. Ranganathan, please stay on. I'll come back to you, swing back to you in just a bit. Your thoughts on this Oxfam report and what they say, that nearly $66 trillion US dollars worth of plunder was made during the colonial era, especially by the British, between 1795 and 1900. And nearly half of that money is concentrated with the UK's top 10%, the richest 10%.
I have, Anand. I have written on this, and in fact, I have a podcast on this as well. It's a 2-episode. I have a fresh video coming out every 3-4 days on my podcast. It's there on my YouTube, all my channels, Apple, etc. But one of the podcasts I had covered was a 2,000-year economic journey of India, and I spread that over 2 episodes. And I showed why India accumulated such a huge amount of capital. It was actually centuries of trade surpluses. And I sourced various authors on this, Sanjeev Sanyal's work, William Dalrymple's work. I reference much of that in this. Utsa Patnaik had also written on this, economist Utsa Patnaik. So there were centuries of trade surplus which led to a huge amount of capital in India. We lost that to a reasonable extent during the Turkic colonial rule, which was from the 11th century to the 17th century. But among the things I said was the difference between the Turkic colonial rule and the British colonial rule. The Turks were just kind of, just brutal killers actually. They weren't really thinking invaders. So they looted in a way, like a robber actually. So there was a limit to how much they could loot and how much. A lot of the wealth started coming down. A lot of money was wasted on mausoleums and palaces, which actually adds no economic value. You know, our ancient kings actually spent more money on public infrastructure, canals, roads, but it wasn't as economically. It was physically devastating. They destroyed a lot of temples, etc. But the true economic devastation happened with the British, because unlike the Turks, they were actually intelligent invaders, and they knew how to almost surgically loot money, and they did it through various ways. Dr. Ambedkar, you know, he was a brilliant economist as well, not just a constitutionalist, and he'd written a paper on how through exchange rate management the British looted tons of money from India, and of course through their tariffs, their free trade was anything but free, right? And yes, I'm not surprised by the number that Oxfam has put out. What is good to see is because Oxfam is actually a British organization, so for them to publicly acknowledge, is a good step. We Indians are not silly. We are not asking for reparations, but we would at least ask that they acknowledge the crimes that they have done. I think, and that is nice to see, perhaps. But what we must focus on now is rebuilding our wealth, rather than we must acknowledge the crimes that happened in the past, but don't get lost in it. Don't allow it to demotivate us. Focus on building now. I think our ancestors did a great job in defending our land at a very difficult period, those 1,000 years. Many ancient cultures were wiped out. We are still here because our ancestors kept fighting. They never surrendered. Now our job is to rebuild. Our ancestors protected our culture in a very difficult time. Our job is to rebuild.
Well, but the West, the global North should also compensate us in some way or the other, giving us special leeway so that we can also come back without looting, plundering them, but on our own. And one of those challenges there, and let's segue into the other aspect today, is the 22nd of January, Amish ji. So as per the Gregorian calendar, 1 year of the Pran Pratishtha of Ram Lalla, and moving on, finding our own, merit back again, this entire reawakening. Do you believe this Pran Pratishtha has taken a huge step forward in Bharat finding its swa, as Mohan Bhagwat ji said?
I completely agree with what Mohan Bhagwat ji said. This is a seminal moment, not just for India and for dharmic religions, but indeed for pagan religions actually across the world. There's been a tide of history over the last 2,000 years. Many pagan cultures are essentially ancestor worshipping, idol worshipping, goddess worshipping, nature worshipping, atheists as well, right? These kind of cultures. There was a tide of history over the last 2,000 years. Many of these cultures were wiped out. They didn't die out, they were wiped out. Many of their temples were destroyed. You see evidence of this across the world, not just in India. And it has almost never happened where a temple of the ancient way has been destroyed and an Abrahamic structure built on top of it, and the old way of worship has been revived once again. It has almost never happened. At least I can't think of any example like this. So this truly is a seminal moment, and one should not, I think Mohanji put it perfectly, that this is not a time of hatred towards anyone else. This is a time of connecting to our ancestors, connecting to our ancient ways. K.K. Mohammed Saab said it so beautifully. and he'd said it in a documentary that my company had actually produced, that Babur was in Uzbeki. He was a foreigner. And KK Mohammed Saab, and as you know, he's a legendary archaeologist. He said, "I am an Indian Muslim. I have nothing to do with Babur." He said, "This is not a Hindu-Muslim issue. This is an Indian foreigner issue." And he said, "Lord Ram is as much mine as well." And we must see it from that perspective. This is a civilizational renewal for India.
True. You talked about your documentary. How was that received? The numbers throw up some very startling insights. Does that actually point to that this generation actually wants to know about the past and wants to connect with it?
Anand, there's a perception that that if you make a documentary, something that's slightly intelligent, going into the court case and nuances of history, no one will want to watch it. People want to watch comedy shows and things like that. So we made this documentary. It's an hour 15. It's on the Ram Janmabhoomi. It's called Ram Janmabhoomi: Return of a Splendid Sun, and it traces the journey of the temple from the beginning, from the birth of Lord Ram till the time it was rebuilt. And we interviewed, chief justices, the Honorable Home Minister Yogi Ji, anyone was, the chiefs of the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas, absolute, the decision makers on all sides. We wanted to interview people across all sides. We'd had a very simple brief. This documentary is neither left wing nor right wing. It is Ram wing. Yeah. This documentary is the highest watched documentary of the year. It's the fourth most watched non-fiction show of the year. The only ones who beat us were Big Boss, the Kapil Sharma show, and Shark Tank, which are kind of mass, programs. And not just that, there is a method, Ormax Media, which came out with this data. There's a method where viewers can also click on which program they liked most. Okay, so including Kapil Sharma show, all of them, the Ram Janmabhoomi documentary is the most liked non-fiction program of 2024, and this shows the deep interest that is there in reviving our ancient roots. This is not a testament to our documentary; it's a testament to the strength of our connection to our roots.
True. Dr. Ranganathan is also patiently listening. Amish ji, please allow me to bring him back into the conversation, even as you're putting out some very interesting numbers of Ayodhya's resurgence. This entire model of cultural tourism, temple economy, many are speaking about it. So before I bring in Dr. Ranganathan, just Amish ji, I want to understand. Mahakumbh is an example. Look at the footfall. I believe you have even invited Elon Musk, and along with Mr. Khemka, you've extended an invite. But is this a very strong model, an active model that we can pursue in our country? Can we revive this? Is there a history or a testament that says, yes, our economic model can be different from the world and it can be around our centers of spiritual excellence?
Absolutely. Anand, there are many many scholars who've written on this. Sanjeev Sanyal, Sri Ram Lalla, many on a temple economy. And in fact, I myself have, based on those books, I must admit, there are scholars who study primary research, and there could be public intellectuals who study the work of those scholars. I'm not a scholar. I don't read the primary research, but we are public intellectuals. We read the work of those scholars. Temple economy, it's not just about spirituality. It actually becomes a hub for the spread of wealth across across society. You're seeing evidence of that in Varanasi and Ayodhya already. My roots are in Varanasi. My father's family was in Varanasi. Before the temple was expanded, the parisar was expanded. Even in Mahashivratri night, we'd probably get maybe 2 lakh pilgrims. Now, on a daily basis, the Vishwanath Ji is getting 7 lakh pilgrims. On Mahashivratri, it's so much greater.
Ji.
The entire area around Varanasi has, received a tremendous economic boost. Similarly, for Ayodhya, we can do this at our temple towns across. And think about what it does, a temple economy. It's not just the hotels and the transporters and all who get work. In a temple economy, even simple people actually working on flowers, people working on temple rituals, all of them who come from underprivileged backgrounds, they get regular income. It actually spreads wealth dramatically, a temple economy, because normally in a temple economy, it's the richer people who come and contribute, and the richer you are, the more you contribute, right? And it all goes to poor people, as compared to a social media economy which tends to concentrate wealth towards the richer. A temple economy actually works in the opposite direction. In ancient times, our temples also worked as hubs of charity. There were free schools out there, free food out there. We were the first ones to start the free food movement. What was Temple Prasad? Essentially, it's free food for the poor. It used to be there in ancient times. In our traditional temples in the south, in the north, because of the invasions, many of the traditions died out. But Anand, you're from the south, you'd know this. Many of the ancient temples, the temple pandit would come out of the. It's a tradition. Would come with a bell. Is anyone hungry? Is anyone hungry? Is anyone hungry? They ask it 3 times, right? And then food would be given. These are our ancient traditions which we need to revive. A temple economy leads to a much more socially equal society as compared to a mall or a social media economy.
Well, brilliantly put there, Amishji. I'm going to bring in Anand Ranganathan. Dr. Ranganathan, I know you're a Darwinian atheist, self-professed, but from the spiritual point of view, or even from the economic and cultural point of view, do you believe, as we mark 1 year of the Pran Pratishtha of Ram Lalla as per the Gregorian calendar? The Hindu Panchang almanac dated it on the 11th of Jan, and the celebrations were made accordingly. But we are marking the Gregorian calendar. Your thoughts, sir?
No, first of all, it's an absolute delight and joy to hear my good friend and brother Amish, and what marvelous points he's made. So thank you very much, Amish. And just to take on from where he left off, when he talked about how temples were the center of, in fact, our cultural, spiritual, economic, financial growth, not just growth, but our stability. And why do you think the Britishers started to control the temples? It is precisely because of that. I may add defense as well to that. But as I said, we can blame the Britishers only so much, and I have. But it's been 75 years, and you look at the progress other countries have made in that time. We've kind of not lived up to that speed to which we should have. To give you an example of cultural renaissance, when you talk of Ram Lalla temple, when you talk of so many other temples, we ourselves are still under the endowment acts that the Britishers had in controlling the Hindu temples, and we call ourselves a secular state. So I don't think we've learned the lessons that we should have, Anand. Having said that, when you talk of our spiritual renaissance, I absolutely agree that the consecration of Ram Lalla that happened today, 1 year ago, as far as the Gregorian calendar is concerned, is an inflection point in this country. In 1 year, you look at the amount of footfalls that area has happened, the economy of that thing, and let's look at the data. So 11 million foreign tourists visit India every year, and domestic tourists are more than the population of India. So, and how does that happen? That happens because of religious tourism, Anand. That happens because this country at its heart is a civilization that is imbibed, that is nurtured by Sanatan Dharma, and that will never be eradicated, however much some people might want to eradicate. There might be a slow destruction of it, dissolving of it, but that's nothing to do with people who want to destroy it. In us clinging on to the archaic discriminatory laws that actually have shackled Hindus and Hinduism, we might actually precipitate the downfall of Sanatan Dharma itself.
So the Sanatan champions need to understand that we need to also rectify some faults in our Samvidhanic outlook towards Sanatan Pratha in our country, or the Hindu way of life altogether, and starting with some of the laws that you've just spoken about. Dr. Ranganathan, Amish Tripathi, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you. It's a historic day, monumental day, and of course, we also had a very interesting report to talk about at the top of the show. Thank you very much. We're going to take a very short break. But the celebration, the commemoration, and also to understand the various perspectives around Ram Lalla Virajman, 1 year of its completion. Some more very special guests will be taking the right stand after the break. Stay with us.
States, he has now weighed in on the ongoing debate over the H-1B foreign guest workers visa, saying that he preferred both sides of the argument, while also noting that he liked very competent people coming to our country, is what he said. He signed an executive order that targets multiple immigration laws, including the long-standing principle of birthright citizenship. Now, this move has sparked intense debate and is expected to face legal challenges. At the heart of the controversy is the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution, which grants citizenship to all individuals born in the United States. However, Trump's executive order seeks to reinterpret this amendment. It asserts that children born to undocumented parents are not entitled to automatic citizenship. Meanwhile, 22 Democratic ruled states on Tuesday have taken legal action against the executive order aimed to end a century-old immigration practice. Listen in to what the US president has to say.
I like both sides of the argument, but I also like very competent people coming into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people that may not have the qualifications they do. But I don't want to stop. And I'm not just talking about engineers. I'm talking about people at all levels. We want competent people coming into our country. And HB1, I know the program very well. I use the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts, even waiters, high quality waiters.
That it's another important question where it's hard to give you an answer because of the uncertainty of what Trump is going to do on any given point. There's no doubt when we consider the problem of illegal immigration that the problem is severe and needs to be fixed. And Trump's position on that is very popular. What people don't talk about enough is the legal immigration system, which is hopelessly gridlocked. It's very politically difficult to change. My own view is that we should welcome additional immigrants. It's a source of strength for the United States. The visa program is a way to bring people in. They may decide to return to their home country. They may decide to apply for citizenship in the United States. But I think it's a very positive program for the United States. And at some point, we need to find the political will to allow more legal immigration. It's a question of, I think, the long-range future for the country. It's just important for any sovereign state to say we're going to do it in an orderly fashion, and we're certainly not doing that now.
All right, Siddharth Mishra joins me live on the broadcast. Siddharth, I think at the heart of this entire move is also one moot question. Is Donald Trump now equating illegal immigrants in the United States with the legal ones? And what is this going to mean for H-1B visa holders, especially the ones from India?
Well, that's absolutely right, Akanksha. In fact, there are many aspects to this entire immigration, U.S. immigration policy. In fact, in the run-up to the polls, Akanksha, if you remember, Trump has always spoken about the illegal immigration to U.S. In fact, he has also been against his supporters largely. His voter base is perhaps their demand has always been that there should be a strict policy should be put in place so that the outsiders should not take away the jobs here in United States. So that's what his supporters, his traditional supporters, those who have been voting for him since 2017, then in 2020. But it's a very tight situation for Trump, Akanksha, because it's not like signing an executive order or maybe making a statement that 18,000 Indians will be deported to India, because it's more this issue is more sensitive, and there is a constant pressure from the tech lobby, the business lobby on Donald Trump. So today also, if you see Akanksha, he has given mixed signaling when it comes to the H-1B visa. So it means that he has still not decided that what needs to be done, what steps needs to be taken, because here he has to keep the tech bros also happy. At the same time, he also have to do some things, take some actions perhaps, so that it can satisfy his traditional voters, those who voted for him 2017, then 2020, and then this time around. So that is also a big challenge for Trump, and this is the reason that he said that he likes both sides of this story, and his supporters, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, have openly been supporting H-1Bs.
Many thanks to you. He has now weighed in on the ongoing debate over the H-1B foreign guest workers visa, saying that he preferred both sides of the argument, while also noting that he liked very competent people coming to our country, is what he said. He signed an executive order that targets multiple immigration laws, including the long-standing principle of birthright citizenship. Now, this move has sparked intense debate and is expected to face legal challenges. At the heart of the controversy is the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution, which grants citizenship to all individuals born in the United States. However, Trump's executive order seeks to reinterpret this amendment. It asserts that children born to undocumented parents are not entitled to automatic citizenship. Meanwhile, 22 Democratic
पल पल में युग युग में हर क्षण में राम, हर तन में हर मन में कण कण में राम। पल पल में युग युग में हर क्षण में राम, हर तन में हर मन में कण कण में राम। राम सिया राम किया विश्व कल्याण भला, राम सिया राम सिया राम। राम सिया राम किया विश्व कल्याण भला, राम सिया राम सिया राम।
जय
From Mahakumbh to the Ram Mandir, it's a time of reawakening of Bharat's civilizational, cultural ethos, its swa. As crores of devotees take the holy dip in Prayagraj, it's the first anniversary, as per the Gregorian calendar, of the consecration of Ram Lalla Virajman, the Bhavya Ram Mandir in Sri Ayodhya. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, along with his cabinet ministers, took a dip at the Triveni Sangam on this occasion, and that was also part of the ongoing Mahakumbh Mela. The ministers also engaged in some light-hearted moments in the sacred waters in the biting cold at the Triveni. They were all there in spirit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat and other dignitaries, presided over the Pran Pratishtha ceremony of Ram Lalla Virajman at the Bhavya Ram Mandir a year ago. The Ram Temple in Ayodhya has been built in such a way that it will last for a long time. The makers believed for 1,000 years this mandir will remain sthir, it will be there. The mandir symbolizes a cultural renaissance in Bharat. With an investment plan of $10 trillion in and around the temple, there will be a boost to the economy, not just in Ayodhya, but nationally. Lakhs of jobs are likely to be created in the region. Small businesses and crafts are likely to benefit with skill development, upliftment of the marginalized, revitalizing local craftsmanship, boosting infrastructure. The holy city is expected to turn into a modern spiritual tourism hub, contributing to the nation's economic growth. 70% of the mandir is complete. 30% is remaining and is slated to be completed by the end of 2025. After 1 year of Ram Mandir, is the Rashtra reawakened, and has Bharat found its swa or the self to reassert its leading role in the world map as a nation which is awakened spiritually, and it can show the rest of humanity the light? We're joined by a very, very special guest, Malini Awasthi ji, Padma Shri, Indian folk singer, and also at heart from the banks of Sarju Tat, and she's seen it all through the last many years, how things have changed in Uttar Pradesh. Yatendra Mishra, author, the man who prepared Lord Ram's jewelry or helped design it. And we should have Sunil Lahiri, actor, also joining us in some time. But first, Malini ji, What a moment it is for us as people. And do you believe we are lucky that we are witnessing this? Kashi, Ayodhya, Mahakumbh.
A very warm welcome and thank you so much for getting us all together on this platform, and it's a beautiful reminder. In fact, I have not personally speaking, and I'm sure I'm speaking on Yatindra Mishra's behalf too. We haven't yet gotten over from that moment when this actually happened last year, same day. And it was a beautiful sunny morning, and we have grown up singing songs, listening to the stories, what a divine day looks like, and we all felt like that. And the whole city totally immersed into spiritual aura of Ram Nam. I think it was such a bliss, and till today I can tell you, in fact, that was I think I can say this, that it was a historic day in the cultural history of India, because so much has changed since. Look at Ayodhya. I mean, we get at least 2 to 10 to 12 requests every day from friends, acquaintances, relatives, people who reach out from various parts of the world that they wish to just do a pranam to Ram Lalla in Ayodhya. These are the people who never ever visited Ayodhya. They never cared to come, and suddenly this beautiful awakening of just coming and touching his lotus feet, I think speaks great volumes of what it has, great impact it has been. And personally speaking, that day, in fact, it reassured me that the prayers are answered, and every wait is worth waiting. I think that's all I can say. Ram himself is, he exemplifies his own life as a long wait, and there's a beautiful song written by Yatindra, Asha Vishwas Ram. I think Ram is that trust. He is the faith that good will happen. So I think the temple, the long wait of seeing the temple in Ayodhya finally. And I know the young generation feels it's very dramatic, the way people over-exaggerate the whole waiting, the historical aspect of it. But I can tell you, I have heard stories from my father, how as a young man, they believed that Hanuman Gadi the Hanumanji, that Hanuman Gadi will do wonders, and how he was asked by Lord Ram that you stay here and just look after this Ayodhya, because I am here, I am omnipresent here, one day the temple will come. So millions of people just waiting for this to happen, generations went away just waiting for this to happen, and we are the blessed one to be seeing this happening right in front of us. And 1 year hence we can see the cultural impact, which is so beautiful, so divine.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. Do you see it around you? Okay, you travel the world over and across the country, and you perform also, you interact with audiences. Yes. Do you believe culturally this finding our swa is actually happening?
Let me just share with you, I think Coldplay, just day before yesterday, I think he, when he was performing in Mumbai in front of the crowd, he said, Jai Shri Ram. I'm sure news channels are aware of this.
Because there were people holding posters of Jai Shri Ram.
If this is not an impact, what is? Yes, so what is? And I was in Tanzania last week, and my organizer there's an organization called Swarn Ganga. I was very surprised that when the head of the organization, Mr. Pathak, he shared with me that he traveled to Ayodhya with his family just for this, and I waited for so many days just because he could do the darshan. These are random stories I am sharing with you. So the cultural impact is great. I know of people who have never visited Uttar Pradesh in their lives, and they just want to board a plane to Ayodhya to just be there. I think cultural change is tremendous. Now you have And it is not only about visiting temple, it is not only about coming to city, because at times, this also sets a trend. Have you been to Ayodhya? Oh no. Or then you feel very low. Oh, I have not yet been to Ayodhya. The next thing, they plan a holiday. You know how these people are. But in terms of cultural impact, I think, so many artists, so many people, you look at the bhajans, I think this time also, last year also, and one very interesting aspect I must share, the Gen Z, 16, 17, 20-year-old, 22-year-old boys and girls breaking into Ram bhajans. And to imagine, like I am 58, right, running 59, I grew up at a time when singing Ram Bhajan was not considered to be cool. Gen Z is breaking into Ram songs in guitars, producing CDs and making videos. I think if this is not cultural impact, what is? And we are so blessed. I think this is all about the eternal wait. How the time cycle, it takes a time. It tested everybody's patience. It was a learner also. It taught all of us, how it is. We have very short memory, I would say. So I think for generations who have just believed in Ram, that he thrives in our heart and soul, it's a very, very beautiful homecoming for Ram in Ayodhya.
Okay, Yatendra ji has been smiling and you mentioned his song. He's also part of the royal family of Ayodhya. So there must be a lot of things that would be actually coming to you. भावनाओं का एक कहते हैं ना समूह एक होगा आपके मन में, यतेंद्र जी. How important, how significant has this been?
सबसे पहले तो बहुत धन्यवाद कि आपने मुझे यहाँ बुलाया. मुझे याद है, मालिनी जी को ध्यान होगा, जिस समय प्राकट्योत्सव हुआ भगवान का और पहली छवि आई सामने, तो सब अपने आप, वो कोई एक तरह से वो स्क्रिप्टेड नहीं था. मालिनी जी रो रही थी, मेरे आंसू गिर रहे थे, हरिहरन जी, शंकर महादेवन, अनुराधा पौडवाल, वो एक फ्रेम भी बहुत उस दौरान वायरल हुआ था. तो वो कहाँ से आंसू आए कुछ समझ में नहीं आया, और बस ये लगा कि इतने वर्षों की साथ पूरी हुई है. मुझे एक बात ये समझ में आती है, जैसा मालिनी जी ने कहा, ये छोटा सा शहर था और 8 बजे रात में सो जाता था, और अब ये हाल है कि रात 12 बजे तक सड़कों पे भीड़ है, रोशनी है, और सुबह 4 बजे से फिर लोग लाइन में लग जाते हैं दर्शन के लिए, मंगला आरती और श्रृंगार के लिए. तो किसी भी कॉस्मो कल्चर वाले शहर की तरह, जैसे बेंगलोर और बॉम्बे और चेन्नई है, 4 घंटे सोता है, 2 घंटे सोता है, अयोध्या भी उस तरह से जगने लगा है. और आपको मैं एक बात बताऊं, हमने एक कंसेप्ट डिराइव किया, श्री राम राग सेवा, कि कोई भी कलाकार आकर के पूरे दुनिया भर का अपनी श्रद्धा में गाना गाए, भक्ति प्रदर्शित करे. तो ट्रस्ट ने एक नियम बनाया कि चूंकि ये क्राउड फंडेड मंदिर है और जनता के पैसे से बना है, हम फी नहीं देंगे, हम आने जाने की व्यवस्था करेंगे. और मुझे काम सौंपा गया सौभाग्य से. अब आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे, 50 दिनों की राग सेवा जो पिछले साल हुई, 150 कलाकार, मालिनी जी ने शुरुआत की थी और डॉक्टर सोनल मानसिंह ने उसे समापन किया था. 150 कलाकार और 250 उनके सह कलाकार, 400 लोगों ने परफॉर्म किया. किसी ने फीस नहीं ली. और मैं साल भर से, मेरे पास सिर्फ इस बात के फोन आते हैं कि हमें राम राग सेवा करा दीजिए. चाहे उस समय मंदिर बन रहा होता है, क्योंकि मैं आइकोनोग्राफी में भी ध्यान देता हूं, तो मैं देखता हूं कि रोज 1 से 1.5 लाख लोग वहां दर्शन के लिए आते हैं, और ये पॉसिबल नहीं है, फिजिबल नहीं है कि हर समय हम वहां परफॉर्मेंस करा सके. लेकिन पूरी दुनिया से मुझे लोग अप्रोच करते हैं और मैं सीधे कहता हूं कि 1 रुपया नहीं मिलने वाला. नहीं, हमें पैसा नहीं चाहिए, हमें साधना के लिए आना है, हमें सेवा के लिए आना है. लोग नाराज होते हैं, लोग बिल्कुल बैगिंग करते हैं, और मुझे इतनी शर्मिंदगी होती है कि मैं उसके बिहाफ पे बस कर रहा हूँ. मुझे वैजंती माला जी का फोन आया एट द एज ऑफ 90, और उन्होंने कहा कि मैं वैजंती माला बोल रही हूँ, मैं डांसर हूँ और मैं पिछले दौर में अभिनेत्री रही हूँ. मैं अपनी कुर्सी से खड़ा हो गया, मैंने प्रणाम किया, मैंने कहा क्या कह रही हैं, हम लोगों ने बचपन में आपको इतना देखा है, फिल्मों के दीवाने. बोली बेटा मैं 92 साल की हूँ, मैं सिर्फ 20 मिनट परफॉर्म कर पाऊंगी, क्या आप मुझे समय दे सकते हैं? मैंने कहा कि आप 2 मिनट भी खड़ी होकर के भजन या स्तुति कर देंगी तो भी आप आए, आपकी श्रद्धा है. और आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे, मान लीजिए उसकी विटनेस है, उन्होंने आधे घंटे परफॉर्म किया और 1 घंटे तक लगातार वो ऐसे ट्रांस में चली गई, what was the scene that Salvation was there, everybody was there. पूरा पैन इंडियन सिनेरियो में कोई भी आदमी ऐसा नहीं था जो वहां पे कलाकार नहीं था, वहां भक्त था। वहां पे किसी को ये नहीं पता था कि वो पद्म विभूषण है, वो संगीत नाटक अवार्डी है, वो हाई अप्स में है, एलीट क्लास से आता है। सब भक्ति भाव से जमीन पे दरी चादर पे बैठ के, और हमने बहुत सिंपल सेगमेंट में, क्योंकि लगातार भीड़ आ रही थी और हमारे पास बहुत छोटा सा कोना था, लेकिन सिर्फ राम के प्रति आस्था प्रदर्शित करने के लिए लोग लगे रहे। और मुझे लगता है कि अयोध्या के बहाने एक सांस्कृतिक सूर्योदय की शुरुआत है। एक ऐसी बात है जो यूथ कनेक्ट हो रहा है। यूथ अपने परफॉर्मेंसेस के लिए मुझे फोन करता है।
इसकी बात तो अभी मालिनी जी ने भी कहा, बट मालिनी जी से यतेंद्र जी, with your permission, when Malini ji is there, how can I let her go without singing
without
2-3 lines
song
for Ram Lalla?
And जब मैंने गाना लिखा हे सकल विश्वास राम, मालिनी जी, अनुराधा जी, शंकर जी, हरिहरन जी सब तैयार हो गए, सबने गाया। और अभी मैंने उसका देखा कि उसके वर्जन्स बनने लगे हैं, लोग गाने लगे हैं, हम करने लगे हैं। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये सिर्फ राम नाम की महिमा है अयोध्या में।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। बट मालिनी जी, इट्स योर चॉइस, जो आपका मन करे। यू नो आई एम अ फैन ऑफ योर्स, सो
एवरीबॉडी इज फैन ऑफ मालिनी।
अरे नहीं, ये मैं गाना इसलिए अभी गाती हूँ क्योंकि ये मंदिर की ओर से जो हमारी जो अपनी द्विवार्षिकी मनाई गई, राम लला के मंदिर की प्राण प्रतिष्ठा, जिसको कि यतीन्द्र जी ने लिखा, और जो लोग भी जिनको ये सौभाग्य मिला कि ये भी मैं आपको बताती चलूँ, जब आप 1 साल की स्मृतियों को याद करने की बात है, तो जिस दिन मुझको यतीन्द्र का ही फ़ोन आया रात के 1:30 बजे, और कि आपको गाना है, पीएमओ से आया है कि आपको भी वहाँ उसमें गाना है, तो बधाई, आपके बिना अयोध्या की एक बधाई होगी। और वैसे सोनू निगम जी थे, शंकर महादेवन जी थे, अनुराधा जी थी, हरिहरन जी थे, कैलाश खेर जी थे, सब कलाकार थे, लेकिन उत्तर प्रदेश की एक बढ़ावा होना है। तो मैं तो इसी में तर गई थी कि जब निमंत्रण पत्र उस दिन उपस्थिति का मिला और गाने का अवसर मिला, तो मैं आपको सच बताऊं, उस दिन मुझे ये लगा कि आज ये गाने का अवसर मिल गया। जिस दिन मैं गा रही थी राम जन्म की बधाई, मुझे लगा इसके बाद मेरा कंठ न चले, मैं न भी गाऊं तो मेरा जीना, जन्म लेना, सीखना, गाना सब स्वार्थ है, मेरा काम हो गया। ये भाव था उस दिन मन में। तो उसकी जो उस दिन गाया वो सुनाती हूँ बाद में। पहले मैं जो उसकी द्विवार्षिकी में जो गाना इन्होंने बनाया उसकी मुखड़ा गा रही हूँ। हे सकल विश्वास राम, करुणा के निज धाम राम, त्याग के उस सघन वन में निर्बलों की छाया राम। राम जय राम, श्री राम जय राम, राम श्री राम, श्री राम जय राम। हे सकल विश्वास राम, करुणा के निज धाम राम, त्याग के उस सघन वन में निर्बलों की छाया राम। राम हे राम, श्री राम जय राम, राम हे राम, जय राम जय राम। और जो उस दिन सुनाया था वो सुना देती हूँ।
जय जी।
हाँ, अरे राम जी के भइल जनमवा, अरे राम जी के भइल जनमवा, चलो करियाई दर्शनवा। राम जी के भइल जनमवा, चलो करियाई दर्शनवा। राम जी के भइल जनमवा, चलो करियाई दर्शनवा। रानी कौशल्या पल न झुलावे, अरे देख के बेहसे परनावा, चलो करियाई दर्शनवा। राम जी के भइले जनमवा चल हो करी आई दर्शनवा. So it goes on and on.
Wow, beautiful, fantastic, fantastic. Yatendra Mishra ji, Malini Awasthi ji, thank you so much. We're really short on time when we lost Sunil Lahiri ji, but I'm just going to check if we can quickly get him back and just a quick word from him, because he's the one who played Lakshman in that iconic series Ramayana. But Sunil Lahiri ji, from then to now, what's changing? क्या जनमानस में राम उजागर हो रहे हैं? Is there a cultural awakening?
Yeah, it is happening, but it is not happening the way it should have been. The reason is that, in fact, 2 days back, I came to know that Arun ji is, distributing Ramayana to every household in Meerut and all that. So I was just talking to his wife, I was telling him, not only that, I feel that it's very important. It should be part of the education, because see, I feel the Ramayana is not any mythology or any religion. It's actually culture. It is a Sanskriti, and it is very important for today's generation. We should make the people aware of our own culture, like Sanskriti, which is missing. And I'm so happy. I attended last year on Tulsi Jayanti. There is a school in Bihar. There's a place called Navada. There was a function, and that school is, I think, Model English School is the name of that school. They teach Ramayana and Mahabharata in their routine Pathikram.
Wow!
And they have an exam for that.
Wow! Well, on that note, let's just hope that this becomes a norm across schools and it becomes part of our cultural ethos and training right from ground up, that is from basic education up. Sunil Lahiri ji, also, thank you so much for joining us. Let's hope that our viewers enjoyed this humble presentation marking 1 year of the completion of the Ram Temple in Ayodhya. Thank you for watching.
States he has now weighed in on the ongoing debate over the H-1B foreign guest workers visa, saying that he preferred both sides of the argument, while also noting that he liked very competent people coming to our country, is what he said. He signed an executive order that targets multiple immigration laws, including the long-standing principle of birthright citizenship. Now, this move has sparked intense debate and is expected to face legal challenges. At the heart of the controversy is the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution, which grants citizenship to all individuals born in the United States. However, Trump's executive order seeks to reinterpret this amendment. It asserts that children born to undocumented parents are not entitled to automatic citizenship. Meanwhile, 22 Democratic ruled states on Tuesday have taken legal action against the executive order aimed to end a century-old immigration practice. Listen in to what the US president has to say.
I like both sides of the argument, but I also like very competent people coming into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people that may not have the qualifications they do. But I don't want to stop. And I'm not just talking about engineers. I'm talking about people at all levels. We want competent people coming into our country. And HB1, I know the program very well. I use the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts, even waiters, high quality waiters.
It's another important question where it's hard to give you an answer because of the uncertainty of what Trump is going to do on any given point. There's no doubt when we consider the problem of illegal immigration that the problem is severe and needs to be fixed. And Trump's position on that is very popular. What people don't talk about enough is the legal immigration system, which is hopelessly gridlocked. It's very politically difficult to change. My own view is that we should welcome additional immigrants. It's a source of strength for the United States. The visa program is a way to bring people in. They may decide to return to their home country. They may decide to apply for for citizenship in the United States. But I think it's a very positive program for the United States, and at some point we need to find the political will to allow more legal immigration. It's a question of I think the long-range future for the country. It's just important for any sovereign state to say we're going to do it in an orderly fashion, and we're certainly not doing that now.
All right, Siddharth Mishra joins me live on the broadcast. Siddharth, I think at the heart of this entire move is also one moot question. Is Donald Trump now equating illegal immigrants in the United States with the legal ones? And what is this going to mean for H-1B visa holders, especially the ones from India?
Well, that's absolutely right, Akanksha. In fact, there are many aspects to this entire immigration, U.S. immigration policy. In fact, in the run-up to the polls, Akanksha, if you remember, Trump has always spoken about the illegal immigration to U.S. In fact, he has also been against his supporters largely. His voter base is perhaps their demand has always been that there should be a strict policy should be put in place so that the outsiders should not take away the jobs here in United States. So that's what his supporters, his traditional supporters, those who have been voting for him since 2017, then in 2020. But it's a very tight situation for Trump, Akanksha, because it's not like signing an executive order or maybe
Green Lamb Laminates presents CNN News 18 Primetime Studio.
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks with me, Zaka Jacob. We're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio presented by Green Lamb Laminates. The gloves are off between the BJP, the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress. Ahead of the Delhi elections, the BJP has accused the Aam Aadmi Party of flooding in people and resources from Punjab in a desperate bid in